What is up, everyone? This is the Daily Fix Show. You do not have to adjust your screens. Yes, that is Joe the Brain Matz, my brother in DFS crime, with me once again on Fantasy and Frames. We're excited to be back. Tonight, we'll get into our favorite DraftKings plays, 4,500 and lower, talk our favorite DK prop bets of the week, and give you showdown lineups for Sunday and Monday night. Joe, real quick question.
Yeah.
Is my heart going to be broken tomorrow about 7:38 p.m. when my dogs get done playing Alabama in the SEC Championship?
I will be surprised if your heart is broken. There was a point in this season where I would have said I wouldn't be surprised, but I mean, Georgia got to the heart of their schedule and looked better than they have all year, even with injuries on the offense. And Alabama just had a miracle to keep their playoff hopes alive against Auburn. So, yeah, I will be pretty surprised.
Maybe
not as surprised as
into my veins, Joe Matz. Inject your words into my veins. But with that, let's hear one of our favorite jingles, and we'll get right into it. This is the Daily Fix, people. What's up? Again, this is the Daily Fix Show, back on Fantasy and Frames. I know technically we've been back for 2 weeks, but it wasn't the same without you, Joe. Jorge did a wonderful job filling in the first week. The second week I went solo, which you know is my dream of just me being able to talk for 30 minutes straight. So that was great, but very happy to have you back. I know you have a Pac-12 championship, and I do too, that I want to check out. So we're not going to hold you up anymore. We're going to get right into this, starting with our favorite DK plays, 4,500 and below. I think I'm starting with somebody that's going to be on your list. I did not go with 2 tight ends this week, which I did last week and the week before, but I do have one, and it's David Njoku, 4,100 at the Rams. Volume's king. This guy just, it's unbelievable. 56 targets his last 6 games, 32 receptions, 6 straight double-digit point games, which we know for the tight end position. I mean, what a freaking dumpster fire that is. So we'll take double digits all week. And then the Rams are 25th versus opposing tight end. So that's a smash for me. Who's your first one?
Oh, number one, both in price. He's at the higher end for me, but also just the guy I feel the best about in this range because what other guy in this price range across all positions do we feel as good about as David Njoku, who again, 6 straight double-digit games. He's been the value guy, honest, week in, week out, because for whatever reason, his price doesn't seem to go up. I guess because he doesn't usually have a 25-point game. He just has 12 or 15.
It's a lot like Rashad White, right? At a much more expensive level. Or, I mean, a couple grand higher. Because he's kind of staying in that 6K range.
You look at, just the overall fantasy points per game on DK. He's below Freiermuth, who granted, maybe Freiermuth
played like 4 games too.
A top 5 tight end now, maybe because they have a competent offensive coordinator. But yeah, he averages a 1.5 more than Freiermuth, who costs more than him. He averages more than Trey McBride. Again, another guy who's trending up because of the injury to Ertz. But like the difference between him and Dalton Schultz is $900. The difference on them points per game is 0.6. And granted, Schultz has the worst defense to go up.
Well, he's out now. But, so actually one of the guys
he's not
on my list, but I'll go ahead and tell you right now, there will be plenty of cash lineups with Brevin Jordan against the 32nd ranked defense versus tight ends.
I was going to say, I remember throwing Brevin Jordan into a lineup a year or 2 ago, and I think he did okay. So he's had his flashes, and against that team, I think that makes a lot of sense. So, but the point is, there's guys who are the same, giving you the same overall production, who cost more, but also those guys aren't giving you the consistency, even at those higher prices. Because again, what tight end this season has given us 6 straight games in double figures. Like,
I don't even know if Kelsey has.
Yeah, I know Kittle hasn't. Granted, he had a solid 4-game streak, and 3 of those were 20-point games because he's George Kittle. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he is the only guy this year who has given us 6 straight games doing that. And like you said, it's not like the Rams are a team where we expect that to change. This is not a good defense against tight ends. Their best guy against tight ends last year was Bobby Wagner, who went back to Seattle. So, yeah, I see no reason to steer away from Njoku. Just keep slamming him.
And as crazy as it is, I actually think it's an advantage that Flacco's going to play for the passing game. I really do. I think it raises.
He's going to want to get that ball out quick. So,
yep. I think it's a big difference. So, the second guy is, I believe, the other guy that we're probably going to agree on because we did our other DFS show yesterday, and we both talked about it looks like Michael Wilson will not play, which that's the only caveat for this. But it's Greg Dortch, 3,700 at the Steelers. Last 2 games, Dortch saw 70+% snaps, 17 targets, 9 receptions, back-to-back 10 double-digit games on DK. Last year, played 6 games of 70% or more snaps, 52 targets, 43 receptions. So now we got an 8-game sample size of this. And absolutely, if Michael Wilson's out, he'll hit that again. In those 8 games, 8.6 targets, 6.5 receptions, and almost 15 points per game on DraftKings. We were just talking about Njoku's the one you feel the safest about. I'm not going to lie, Dortch being $400 cheaper, I almost feel just as strongly about this one as I do Njoku, because again, 8 games is a significant sample size when Murray, I believe, was QB in 6 or 7 of those 8.
Yeah, I think it was a great point because I was all in on Dortch already going into our other pod yesterday, and then you were listing off the full spread of games that he's had with Kyler Murray. And yeah, this is not just the small sample size of, hey, look great last week. It's these guys have actual chemistry. And then, yeah, you look at that Pittsburgh Steelers defense, and we're going to assume Joey Porter is going to mostly be blanketing Marquise Brown. And after that, there's not really guys that you're worried about in this defense. Marcus Peters, or Peterson, Patrick Peterson, great player back in the day. He's not the worst now, but he's not someone that you're like, oh God, Patrick Peterson might be on my wide receiver. You're not afraid of that. And then the other guy on the outside is Levi Wallace, who's been a disaster this season. He's the 106th ranked overall, 97th in coverage on PFF. So yeah, and I think the bonus too is with Matt Canada gone, bigger chance that Pittsburgh is going to score in this game.
Good point.
If Deontay Johnson or your boy from Georgia, if those guys were cheaper,
Pickens,
we'd be talking about them. Yeah, Pickens, because I think both those guys are set up to have big games against a bad Cardinals defense. So yeah, the fact that Pittsburgh might, top 400 yards again, maybe score 3 touchdowns, put some more pressure on the Cardinals to pass the ball, all the more reason. Like I said, the best receiver on this team is going to face the best corner on the Steelers. So, Greg Dortch under 4,000, fire him up. The Dortch Njoku combo, I think probably in any lineup I do, I'm going to roll with both those guys because that's really going to let me load up in other spots.
Well, I didn't pick him on here, but again, Tyler Conklin, you play him against my sorry-ass Falcons tight ends with Dortch. Now you're talking 6,700. And you could even go with the Tua Hill stack then at that point if you want to. You just have so much flexibility. All right, the third guy, I promise you, you don't need to piss test me. I wouldn't pass it anyway. But Elijah Moore, 3,500 at the Rams. Joe, do you know what his fantasy points per route run with Joe Flacco is compared to every other quarterback in his career?
Oh, that's right. I was forgetting that they've played together. Yes, please tell me.
Everyone else, 0.25, 1/4 of a yard. With Flacco, 1.12. That is big.
I love it.
And I went back and looked. He had 2 monster games with Flacco's last stint with the Jets. I really like 3,500. Here's another one. That's the only thing that scares me about Njoku Like, I still think he's worth in that price, but I don't know if I'm willing, even in a big contest, to gamble with both of those guys, unless I just want to go all in and go Flacco, Njoku, friggin' go
really roll the
more
dice
and then just load up everywhere else. But I think that, I mean, he's seeing consistent targets anyway, and I just think with Flacco, they're going to throw more. But, I mean, that really is shocking. I know he hasn't played with a bunch of great QBs, but, I mean, it's not like he's playing with the best version of Flacco either.
No, he's certainly not. Which, God knows still how the Ravens won a Super Bowl with Joe Flacco, throwing 11 touchdowns.
I was saying, he was incredible.
Run. Yeah, let's OC for that team, Jim Caldwell. So, shout out Jim Caldwell, who actually is still involved with the Carolina Panthers. So maybe we'll see some offensive improvement there if he gets a little more say in what they're going to do. My third guy is Curtis Samuel, 4,100 against the Miami Dolphins. And the simplest thing here is just the volume. Again, Sam Howell drops back more than anyone. He has 6 straight games with at least 42 attempts. And I believe that very first game of that streak against the Giants is the last time he's been sacked over 5 times, which doesn't sound impressive, but if you've been paying any attention to the Washington Commanders this year,
like 42 sacks, I think there's 6 or 7 games or something crazy.
Yeah, so like the fact that he and Bieniemy, whether it's him getting the ball quicker, Bieniemy calling for plays that have shorter dropbacks, they figured it out that like we don't need this guy to get murdered, and so that's just. Again, the dropbacks aren't changing. It's just that now we're getting 2 or 3 extra attempts added on to that huge number. Obviously, last week worked out great for Curtis Samuel. Huge game. Saw 9 on 12 targets, 9 receptions, 100 yards against Dallas. And listen, we talked about again on the other pod yesterday. Miami is the Dallas of the AFC. They're going to crush you if you're not good. Washington is not good. Expect 35-plus points for Miami. That means we're getting the guaranteed 45 dropbacks from Sam Howell. A lot of opportunity for Curtis Samuel. The Miami Dolphins defense, bottom 6 in targets seen to wide receiver 3s. I mean, you got to remember, Jalen Ramsey is back on the outside, so that's going to scare some people off from throwing to Terry McLaurin. Xavier Howard, super up and down on that opposite corner. So, some dots and opportunities as well. And then at the slot, Cater Kohu, perfectly reasonable slot corner, but again, not a guy that you're throwing away from, as opposed to Jalen Ramsey, where, Terry McLaurin probably sees a couple less targets this week because of that. So that's all the more reason to look at Dotson, who I believe is just outside of our 4,500 range, and then Curtis Samuel down here at 4,100. So, I just think he's got a chance. He's going to have 40-plus chances to catch a pass in this game. And if he catches 5 or 6 of them, or even, 9 like last week, we're in a good spot.
Yeah, I think I sent you the tweet I saw today that when all 4 of Thomas and the 3 receivers we just mentioned play, it's Samuel who's averaging the most points per game in PPR leagues at almost 11, which is shocking.
He's
but that's
top 40 in PFF grade, which doesn't sound amazing, but you're talking about the 3rd receiver on Washington, so he is legitimately a pretty good wide receiver.
Yeah, I used to love him in Carolina because he would have like 3 points, and it would be 30 when he would always.
They wish they still had him in Carolina,
right? No kidding. All right, the last 2 that I have are start with my 4th, just so we know. The first 3, and I think same with what you said, you feel very good about those guys. Like I actually think that they have a chance. I feel confident about them being in cash lineups. These are the guys are really more for MME unless you're just getting real ballsy in cash games, at least for me. But let's start with Alec Pierce, 3,300 at Tennessee. Played 95% of the snaps last week. Only Pittman played more on the Colts. Even more shocking, only 7 wide receivers all of week 12 played more snaps than Alec Pierce percentage-wise. The Titans allowed the least fantasy points, 2 wide receivers in the slot. Example, Adam Thielen last week. Nothing. I think he had 3 targets, 1 reception, lows in fantasy points, targets, receptions. Only Josh Downs for these Indy Colts has more snaps from the slot than Adam Thielen. So that's not good for Downs this week. It's really good for Pittman, by the way, which you talked about. We love him. But I think that means Pierce has a chance to have a good team because you can really burn these Titans on the outside. And he's still seeing a 15% target share. The last 6 games with Minshew has had 3+ receptions in 4 or 6, 5+ targets in half of the games. And he has one of the worst getting open rates versus man. Luckily, the Titans only run man 22% of the time. That's about 19th in the NFL. So he's going to have plenty of opportunities versus zone, which he is much better against. And, you talked about it last night. Gardner Minshew is, I think, a pretty decent play this week. Especially with Moss, who has been really good in the games that there's been no Taylor in the passing game, because he's been peppered with obviously all the targets. But I think Pierce has got a chance to kind of have a big game. And he's a big play guy. I mean, if you look at it, he's got a bunch of games this year with 2-3 receptions for 40 to 60 yards. All we're looking for is, again, 9 to 12 points, and this is a hit. So I think that it's got a good chance, and I like it in MME.
Yeah, I like that play. I'm also dropping down here to the don't put these guys in cash games. These are shots somewhat in the dark. It's like you got one eye open.
As much as two stat nerds like us can just throw darts, right?
Yeah, I'm going Jonathan Mingo, 3,300. I look at him against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has just been really bad in their defensive backfield this season, which has been weird. That's obviously been a pretty good group, but Carlton Davis, Jamel Dean, they've been banged up all season. When they've been out there, they have not been good. Now, these are guys that perennially were, top 50, even top 25 corners when you're looking at those PFF grades. And then this season, Carlton Davis is 100th out of 120 ranked cornerbacks. And I believe Jamel Dean is not expected to play in this game. So, yeah, the two corners that they're lining up, according to the PFF projection here, are both 100th and 109th.
This is also a huge Adam Thielen's going bonkers at 6,600.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, Adam Thielen's the cash game guy. Slam him. And obviously, hey, throw him into whatever lineup you like at that price. And yeah, listen, you could go Mingo, you can go Chark. I don't know that there's great reasons to choose one over the other than I just look at Jonathan Mingo. I'm like, hey, this is a young guy. He's a big body dude, runs under a 4.5. He got drafted in the second round for a reason. Talented player.
DJ Chark's probably going to get injured by halftime. And
right, we've seen DJ Chark enough. It's not going to happen with DJ Chark. Yeah, he could have a good game this week. In general, it's just not going to. So, yeah, Mingo is the younger guy. He's the guy I'm willing to take more of that deep dive with here. And, yeah, we're going to see, can this offense get a little more creative? Where this was a team that I believe the only team running 11 personnel, so 3 wide receivers, more often was the Rams. The Rams, of course, run motion constantly. They are, every year in, year out under McVay, top 5 team in running motion. Carolina was 31st. So you had the same lineups all the time. They're not running motion. And it's the easiest defense or the easiest offense in the league to game plan for. So we'll see it. Maybe things are a little more creative. Thomas Brown, the offensive coordinator, he came from the Rams. So I'm hoping we'll see a little more motion.
Go Dogs.
Yeah, UGA guy. And again, Jim Caldwell is also an offensive assistant on that team. So I'm hoping those guys get together. They liven up this offense. We see a little more life. Bryce Young shows why he got drafted that high, because obviously the CJ Stroud thing has not looked good for them. I still kind of believe in Bryce Young. This is,
slow your rolls, situation.
Look at Peyton Manning's we've seen him play well. So, if I'm rolling the dice on these under 3,500 guys, and I see a guy who got drafted in the second round, who has size, who has speed, and a quarterback I still believe in, and maybe some extra life. Again, I'm not going to say Frank Reich is Matt Canada, because we've seen Reich have good offenses. But sometimes that change livens.
Didn't he have Andrew Luck for most of it, though? So,
only for a year.
Oh, that's right. You're right. I forgot.
And the rotating guys, it was Brissett, it was Phillip Rivers last season, Carson Wentz, his kind of semi-last stand. I guess he went to Washington, but that ended very quickly. So, but yeah, so I will say, Bryce Young's still a guy I believe in. I still think there's some smart coaches on that team. And Mingo, at the very least, he has the size, he has the speed, and he's in a plus matchup against a bad defense in Tampa Bay.
Love it. All right, my last one, 3,300, Marvin Mims. I know you're probably going, really, Keith, we're going here again, because I'm sure that if you're on Twitter or, any other places, every week people are talking about this is going to be the Marvin Mims week, or they show, his yards per route run and all these, statistics, and it's off the chart. But it's just about a specific matchup. I also really like Russell Wilson this week. And I think that's the stack. I really do. Is whether actually, if you're going to, because in a cash game, I don't think you have to because he's been running so much. But if you want to in a cash and definitely in MME, it's with Mims. Since week 7, Houston allows the most points per game per target to perimeter wide receivers. That's per fantasy points data. And they, at the 4th highest rate, utilize the too high zone. Mims has been real good versus too high, averaging 2.25 yards per route run, 6.4 yards after the catch. And out of 119 wide receivers who qualify it, he's 20th in yards per route run, 9th in yards after catch and reception, and 28th in fantasy points per route run. I know he's got a hamstring injury, so obviously make sure he's going to play. All signs are showing he will. But as you can see with the stats above, I talked about this last night with this game being in a dome. I like that for Russell and the Denver passing attack. It's their first time all year that they've had a game indoors. And, these guys that are fast, they're just faster inside. He's going to have a great matchup. And he's already had a few games. I know he's at most he's been seeing 2-3 targets. Basically about it. He's got 2 games this year with 16-plus points. And he had 2 targets in one of those and 3 in the other. So I really like Mims, especially in MME at 3,300. But again, just make sure that he is a go because he's got the hamstring deal.
All right. Yeah. I mean, the beauty of Marvin Mims is obviously it only takes 2 or 3 targets and you can be golden. So hopefully we haven't seen it in a while, but we did see it early in the season. So hopefully this is the return to form. I'm going to go with another rookie. We're just going to keep the rookies rolling. A.T. Perry.
Yes.
New Orleans Saints, 3,300 against Detroit.
Love it.
Again, very, very simple thing here. He's going to be on the field because Michael Thomas is on IR. Rashid Shaheed has been ruled out. Chris Olave is still questionable. He did practice today, but he has not yet been cleared because he's had
I need him so bad in 2 fantasy leagues to go, Joe.
I could also use him in one of my fantasy leagues. But I actually probably like Perry maybe even more with Olave out there just because of this matchup. Yeah. Because, obviously you're probably not rolling your coverages to A.T. Perry regardless. But if Olave's out there, you're definitely rolling it towards Olave. And then the Detroit Lions, not the team that they were the last couple of years where you and I every week were like, hey, who's going up against the Lions? Let's put that guy into our lineups. But still,
kind of that way through the past, to be fair. Like they're good against the run.
They're no longer the bottom 5 team that you're just hammering. But again, 25th against wide receivers on DK. And particularly against wide receivers number 2. So if Olave is out there, 3rd most yards per game allowed to wide receiver 2s, according to FTN's charting. So that opens up a lot for us. And then if Olave is not out there, well, target's got to go somewhere. Juwan Johnson, also a very interesting player this week. So yeah, it's just A.T. Perry is going to be out there. 6th rounder, a lot of people probably not aware of them unless they're Wake Forest or ACC fans. Last 2 years at Wake Forest, over 1,000 yards, at least 11 touchdowns both years. So big-bodied guy. I believe he's 6'5". And again, another guy who he ran in the 4.4s. So he's tall, he's fast, and he's going to be out there on a team that presumably is going to be losing most of this game, if not the entire time. So if you're throwing darts,
we'll see about that. But
throw a dart on those rookies: Perry, Mingo, Mims. See what happens.
I think you've talked me into that Perry again. Like unless I'm stacking it with Wilson, that makes more sense because it's almost assured he's going to get more volume. Which again, if it's MME, whatever. But I'm going to actually consider him in some cash game lineups as well. All right, we do prop bets every week. Our favorite 4. Last week, Joe, I hit 3 of 5. Hey, how about the kid?
Oh, yeah.
After going 1 for 5 the first week. Hit 3 last week, including my favorite, which was Desmond Ridder at plus 225 to get 25 plus yards against a Saints team that, God, they can't stop running quarterbacks. He had it by the second quarter, so bully for me. But this week, all yards, all from DK Sportsbook. My first one, Adam Thielen, alt receiving yards, 80 plus 185. You can go to 90 plus at plus, I think it's 260. I don't hate that one either, but it's coming off the worst game of the year. You just heard me say it. Titans, best defense in the league versus receivers in the slot. Thielen lines up in the slot the second most. This week, he faced the Bucs, who give up the 6th most fantasy points per game to receivers from the slot. Just last week, the one guy who has slightly more snaps from the slot than Thielen, Josh Downs. I said 10 targets last night, Joe. He got 13 targets last week versus his defense. And he is definitely their number 2 option at best in that passing offense. He averages just over 6 targets per game, and that's with that 13 number. Thielen, since week 2, 8.9 targets per game, double-digit targets in 6 of 9. Again, he's a smash play at 6,600 in cash game lineups for me. And I feel really good about him going over 80 yards at plus 185.
Obviously, yeah. I'm all in on that one with you 100%. You have fully converted me on Thielen, especially this week. I'm going to go with straight up, just score a touchdown. Jaylen Warren plus 125 against the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are giving up 1.5 touchdowns per game to opposing backfields. This is a team who has given up a rushing touchdown in 5 straight games, including 3 touchdowns for the Ravens. Last week against the Rams, 3 touchdowns total because they gave up 2 in the air. So they've given up 6 through the air, 12 on the ground. And, listen, if they get in close, maybe Najee Harris is the safer play, but I just love everything that Jaylen Warren is doing right now. And so you throw in the fact that they've given up 6 through the air. And, yeah, I'm going to just take a bet on, again, probably snap for snap, the second most efficient running back in the NFL this season against a bad defense. And again, in an offense that we're hoping will continue to show more life down the stretch here now that Matt Canada is no longer holding it back. So I'm getting plus money on Jaylen Warren against the Cardinals. I'm going to take it.
I love it. My second one, the guy who went off last week, another rookie receiver, Joe Matz, Rashee Rice. I'm going to make my official play the alt receiving yard number of 70 plus for plus 260. But 60 plus, if you don't feel so good about that 70, is plus 160. Before last week, Rice had saw 5 plus targets in 3 or 4 games. So they were ramping up his usage anyway. In those games, he had 158 yards, 2 touchdowns. Last week, season high, 10 targets, caught 8 of them, had his first 100-yard game, scored again. This is a big thing for me, and this is why they're ramping him up. Mahomes. His QBR when throwing to Rice is now the highest in the NFL at a rating of 138, averaging 9.6 yards per attempt, 5 touchdowns, no picks. I'm a little worried the Chiefs might be catching some steam because if they can just get a receiver going, that offense is going to get really good again. And from what Travis Kelce said this week about he's definitely a number 1 receiver, Andy Reid said things about it, you can just tell this is becoming the guy. And I think there's a good chance he hits again. If you want to do the 70 number, it's plus 260, or the 60 number, it's plus 160.
Yeah. Rashee Rice, I love that one. And shoot, are they at home or are they on the road for that game?
I believe they're on the road.
Okay, because interesting thing.
They are at Green Bay.
Okay, interesting info I came across. I can't remember who was posting it, but on Twitter or X, the drop rate in Kansas City, especially for night games, Kansas City receivers the last few seasons, 10% drop rate. They hover right around that 6.5% on the road. And then, of course, someone was like, hey, what is it for the opposing teams? It's also a 10% drop rate in Kansas City on night games. So for whatever reason, guys can't track the ball. They can't see it well in the night games in Kansas City. So a boost to every Kansas City receiver when they're on the road, basically. So I like that even more because of that.
That's why you're Joe the Brain. I love it.
I'm going to go with a guy that you and I are both big on, and that's Michael Pittman.
Yes.
I'll give me the 90 yards at plus 170 against the Tennessee Titans. I liked him already going into this, and then you've detailed that the Titans not giving up a lot to those slot receivers.
They get burned,
which means Josh Downs, much as I love him, probably not a big play this week. And so, Michael Pittman has been awesome this season. Coming off the 10 for 107 last week, again, against Tampa Bay, target wide receivers against Tampa Bay.
Don't you wish we got Anthony Richardson this year? I mean, God, I think these Colts could be like a contender.
I don't know if he would be better or worse for their wide receivers.
I don't know. They started off pretty good.
But man, that's just the added dimension of him on the ground. And then, you've got Taylor and maybe not Taylor right now, but Taylor and Moss. This is an exciting team, especially Shane Steichen calling the plays. But Michael Pittman, 4 straight games, at least 8 receptions, 5 of the last 6. The only real question is the yardage. He's only topped 90 in 2 of those 6 games. So, hey, that's why we're getting the plus 170 there. If you want to drop down to 80, you are still getting plus money there. And he has topped that in 4 of the 6 games. But Tennessee Titans remain an elite defense, despite what Zach Moss did back in week 5. Elite defense against the run, 2nd in DVOA, 30th against the pass. And if they're containing Josh Downs, that means it's Michael Pittman or Alec Pierce time. And, I feel a lot safer betting money on Michael Pittman than I do Alec Pierce. So take Michael Pittman. If 80 yards, if you want to play it safe, again, you're still getting plus money, and I think he definitely hits that. But if you want to go higher, let's roll it on the 90 or even 100.
All right, my third one. Let's have some fun. Tyreek, all receiving yards, plus 120, plus 165. I don't see any way he doesn't get 120 yards. I don't. The burners for the last 2 teams they played, Brandon Cooks and Darius Slayton, they're the speedsters on the Cowboys and the Giants. They combined for 8 receptions, 175 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And now the Cheetah is getting to play this defense. I know some people are saying, well, what about if Waddle has? Tyreek's the 2,000 number. I think it matters to the team. I think he's going to hit it this year. And I think this is going to be a big reason why. Has already had, I think, 4 games of 150 yards or more. I think this is the 5th. I can't believe you're getting plus odds with him when I think there's been 3 games he's had 100 yards by halftime. So I really like getting those plus odds. Plus 165, Tyreek Hill, 120 plus yards receiving.
I mean, I can never say something bad about a Tyreek Hill one because it's like him, Lamb, A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson whenever he comes back. It's like I can't argue against any of them because, it's you just don't want to go against any of those guys. Let's see. My next guy. Shoot, I was looking through because I wanted to see this guy and they don't have him up, is Quentin Johnson. I kind of think whenever he posts, find him because I think Bill Belichick's going all out trying to contain Keenan Allen. Everyone's off Quentin Johnson because he hasn't looked good. He got benched. I'm guessing he comes back in this game. I don't think you're sitting a guy of that talent. And then whatever the number is, it's going to be really low because right now you've got, what do we have here? No one on the Chargers is going above like 30 yards besides Keenan Allen. So if assuming Quentin Johnson posts closer to game time, if as long as we're hitting 30, 40 yards, we're getting plus money, and I think we will, especially at 40, I think he's worth it because, listen, he's just got to catch the ball. He's big enough. He's fast enough. Patriots are not what they were earlier in the year. Obviously, they looked good against the Giants. But that defensive backfield's gotten banged up. They've released some guys. It's not good in New England across the board. So assuming that Bill Belichick still has, the wherewithal to be like, hey, let's do everything in our power to go against Keenan Allen, that's when I think you got to fire up the other guys. And again, I just think Quentin Johnson's going to have that plus matchup when he's on the field.
Can't argue with that. All right, my fourth one. These last two are where, all right, don't feel 100% good about them by any means, but I do feel like they're going to hit, and that's why obviously I'm giving them, but I know that they're a little risky, and I'll point out those numbers. All right, the fourth one, Russell Wilson, alt pass yards, 275 plus. For starters, he hasn't hit this number since week 3. So obviously that is concerning. I think that the Broncos, just the way they play, they tend to want to run it. They've been using 3 different backs at a time and just kind of control the game because Russell's been so good. He's hardly ever turning it over. He's being very good when he gets to the red zone, getting touchdowns. He's using his legs. But these Texans, like all of a sudden, they look real bad versus the pass. 2 of their last 3 games, they've allowed 300 plus yards. Baker Mayfield threw for 265 yards against this team 4 weeks ago. And again, it's just Wilson in a dome. Like I think that I really feel like he's going to go off. And I think this is going to be a statement win for the Broncos, who I think are pretty good. But I do think the Texans are going to be able to score and move the ball. And that's going to force Russell to do the same. So I like 275 plus yards. That's his alt pass number at plus 330.
I like that one. I mean, yeah, Russell Wilson, right? He's actually been pretty good all season. But
Really
I think
good.
people are finally catching on now that the rest of the team is not a trash fire. Well, the defense isn't a trash fire. But yeah, I think that's one you feel really good about. I'm going to. A part of me hates this because it involves believing at least somewhat in Tim Boyle, but Garrett Wilson, 70 yards plus 190. This Atlanta Falcons defense has looked relatively solid most of the season against a very weak schedule. So, the thing I always love to look at the DVOA numbers, because those are telling you, adjusted for opponents, what is this team like? 16th against the run DVOA, very solid. 29th against the pass. This is a bottom 5 pass defense when you really boil it down.
Rub it in, Joe. Thanks.
No, pun not intended with the Boyle there. But not a good pass defense. I don't feel remotely safe about betting actual just Tim Boyle stats, because wash my hands of that. Because who knows if he'll even finish the game. He could be so awful, they'll just be like, hey, let's try this, one more time. Or maybe Aaron Rodgers will just
Uncle Rico plays the second half.
Yeah, who knows what's going to happen. But listen, Garrett Wilson, I know we haven't been able to see it properly this season, how insanely talented this guy is. Hopefully we all remember from last season. And yeah, I just see a game where he's got the opportunity against a minus defense. This was a guy who not so long ago, 4 straight games with 80 or more yards from October 15th to November 12th. So that's
and he did it all last year with Flacco and Zach Wilson and all these other shit.
He has never had a good quarterback in his time in the NFL. He had 3 plays of Aaron Rodgers, and that's it. And the guy has still been awesome for most of it. So Garrett Wilson, 70 yards, not that much. Very achievable. So, and that's plus 190. We're almost doubling our money.
All right. I think for my last play each week, I'm just going to call it, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Let's get fucking nuts, right, Joe. Amari Cooper, alt receiving yards, 85.5 plus 475. I do. Okay. I think Flacco being in there could potentially unleash Cooper, because if you look at it, the games Deshaun Watson's played, he consistently averaged like 80, 90, 100 yards. Did it on 4 or 5 receptions. Flacco proved last time with the Jets, is he still a really good, competent quarterback? Probably not. He can still throw a deep ball, and he still likes to throw a deep ball, which only makes it more likely. And then just the monster games I think about last year for guys like Corey Davis, Elijah Moore. I'm talking about like they were top 10 wide receivers for the week. Yeah. With Flacco as QB. Now the Jets were awful and they got beat, which could again happen, with the Browns this week. But I think there's a really good chance he goes over that. And plus 475, almost 5-1 odds on a real legit, top 15 wide receiver in the league with it. No offense to Darian Thompson, but right now an upgrade for the passing game with Joe Flacco.
I mean, hey, I love it. Elite Joe Flacco. One of my favorite commercials ever, which I just saw on YouTube because I think it was a local Baltimore commercial, was just him going, "Hut, hut, Pizza Hut." So that's what I always think of when I think of Joe
He's
Flacco.
also Mr. Personality, elite.
Yeah, exactly. Just such a lovable guy. Charisma just oozing off of him. Love Joe Flacco. Love betting on him. Why not? I'm going to go with Kyler Murray. 250 plus passing yards. That's plus 270 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. He has hit that only once this year in the 3 games that he has played. But one of the others, he hit 249. So really close to that in 2 of 3 games. The other one, 214. And that was a surprisingly defensive game against Houston. So another bet you can always just do is just throw in him to score a touchdown because he's running for a touchdown in every single game this year that he's played. Granted, it's only 3. But yeah, he's better against zone than man historically. Steelers, always a zone-heavy team. And yeah, I just think, again, I'm betting on this Steelers team to continue to be a competent offense without Matt Canada, especially against this.
Way to go on a limb there, Joe.
Well, it's not like Kenny Pickett has looked great at all. Again, all of it with Matt Canada, to be fair. So maybe Kenny Pickett's actually good. We'll see. But yeah, I expect the Steelers to put up 24 plus in this game. I think Kyler's going to have to throw it to keep up with them. And yeah, like all in, just do a Kyler Murray 250, throw in Dortch to get like 70. If I don't think those numbers are posted yet, because again, they're few days out, they're not posting everyone. They get closer, they fill in the rest of those guys. Whatever Dortch's number comes in at, partner that with this. Give me that parlay. We can probably get like a solid plus 400 on this thing and really make some money.
I love it. All right, we're going to do a showdown lineup for Sunday and Monday, and then we will get out of here. Sunday night, really good game. Chiefs at Packers. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that I was real close to using Rice as my captain, but he was just a little too expensive for me to get enough of the players that I kind of had as my core. I think both of these teams are going to score and move the ball. I think for the Packers side, I have more of an idea how they're going to do it, and it's going to be through the air. Green Bay just had no run game at all this year.
No, it's been bad.
But I do like Jordan Reed. The Chiefs are not very good against number 2 and number 3 receivers, and they really struggle, with their zone defense, and that is where Reed has been dominating. They run a very high zone rate. Reed has been very good in that area, so I got him as my captain, 10,500. Again, I think the Packers are going to have to throw it, so I'm going to put Jordan Love in there, 9,600. He could be their leading rusher too, and I'm also putting in Tucker Kraft at 4,200. You look at, last week versus the Lions, I just think there's a very good chance he has 1 catch for a touchdown, 15 yards. I mean, he's a pretty talented dude. Detroit Beastie went into a long reasoning last week on the show of why, he was a valid play for the Thursday game. So I got 3 Packers. So I'm going to go back on the Chiefs side. Obviously, I want Mahomes. He's 12-4. I'm going to put him with Rice at 8,400. And then at that point, it just was too risky to go with the Chiefs defense or any of their small receivers. So something, I love doing. I went with their kicker, Harrison Butker, 4,800. He scored 9 or more points in 6 of 7, double digits in 5 games this year. I'd just rather take the guaranteed points, and that leaves you $100 for my Sunday night lineup. What's yours, Joe?
All right, well, I went ahead and decided to roll the dice on Rashee Rice. I just think this is going to be a really big Rashee Rice game. That clocked me in at 12-6. I think Jordan Love's going to keep it rolling, that's the interesting thing about going up against Kansas City now is you don't feel sure about it because this is actually a good defense now. But it feels like he's legitimately kind of turned a corner here. So I'm taking him at 9-6. I'm going Pacheco because I do think Kansas City is going to be in the lead. I think they're going to be able to run the ball successfully against a Packers team that
84.
I think it's been he's at a 10-2.
10-2.
But I don't remember the last time the Green Bay Packers were good at stopping the run. Legitimately, like it might have been a decade ago. I have multiple like good friends who are Packers fans. My roommate, he's always angry about them not being able to stop the run. So give me that. I'm going to go with Romeo Doubs at 6,400. I feel pretty good for whatever. I know Watson just had the big game last week.
I was to say neither one of us trust that Watson can do it.
I'm still like, I'd rather go Watson or I'd rather go Dobbs and Reed. I'm throwing both of them in 6,400 and 7,000. And then that did leave me in a pretty weird spot because I could not get either kicker. I could not get Kansas City's defense. So I'm going to end up pocketing 1,800. I'm just going to roll the dice. This might be just an old time because I believed in him coming out and I've looked really dumb for that. Sky Moore, 2,400. Let's see what happens, Sky. Do it for me, buddy. Come through. So obviously, hey, if you can pick whoever you want out of the like bargain bin there at the end, because like I said, I've got 1,800 left there. But who else am I going to use it on? Tyler Kraft, the Packers defense. I don't want that.
Don't shit on my play, Joe.
I don't ever want to defense against Kansas City. I don't ever want it. I'm sorry. So yeah, that's my play. Obviously, you can play around with it. I mean, truthfully, hey, because of the difference there, if you want to go with Watson, you can easily take him. I mean, he's actually cheaper than Reed. But like I said, I know it was a good 1 week. Maybe they stick with it. I would rather see it for another week before I decide to roll the dice on it.
All right, Monday night game. I technically got two, and I'll explain it real quickly, then go through them. If Higgins plays, I actually think the Bengals move the ball, and their offense is good, and I think he is an extreme value, and he will absolutely be my captain at 11,400. I'd pair him with Chase at 9,400, Trent Irwin, 1,800, and then basically just take the Jags that I really want in this matchup, which is Lawrence, Ridley, who his numbers in the game. Is Rams running back a good play for week 13? I personally think if it's PPR league, yeah, it's a smash play. Yes. But I mean, even if it's not, I don't know how you can sit Kieran Williams right now. Because he's 7,200 on DK. I've already got him in a couple of DraftKings.
Yeah, he's been good. He's really dominated that backfield. So, yeah, I say roll with it.
Sir, thank you for the question and for watching. So, again, if Higgins plays, that's my captain, 11-4, Chase 9-4, Irwin 1-8, and then Lawrence 10-8, Ridley 9,200 again, just because of the insane points. And I still haven't really seen a great explanation of when Zay Jones, Ridley, and Kirk plays. He's like the legit top 12 receiver. And then Evan Ingram. Bengals are awful versus tight ends. I think Ingram's got both a very high floor and potentially a high ceiling at 6,200. Real quickly, if Higgins does not play, I'm going to put Ridley at the captain. Anytime, sir. And I'm going to put Ridley at captain, if not 13-8. Jaguars D 4,800, because I think the Bengals would really struggle if they don't have both Higgins and Chase out there, much like what we saw last week. So I got Chase 9,400, Ingram 6,200, Lawrence 10-8, and Brandon McManus 5K. That lineup leaves me with zero. What I like about the top one with Higgins as the captain is it leaves me $1,200. What is your Monday night showdown lineup, my friend? And I'm going to keep up with these so that way we can talk smack to each other.
Ooh, well, I'm worried. I feel like you're much better and more experienced at the showdown lineups than I am. I always get freaked out having to pick one game.
You're Joe the Brain Mats. Come on, buddy.
But I'll catch you down the stretch. That's what I'll do. I'll make it exciting at the end. He's questionable, so there's a little worries there, but I'm going to go Travis Etienne as my captain. I just think they're probably winning most of this game. Etienne, I mean, he doesn't even need to be in a situation where he's winning to be, the explosive guy we saw earlier in the season. We haven't seen the last few weeks, so I'm hoping this is the turnaround. That cost me 15-3. I can't help myself. I'm going to throw both Bengals wide receivers in there. 9-4 for Jamar Chase, 7-6 for Higgins. Again, assuming
what was
that Higgins
captain cost?
15-3.
Thank you.
So I'm just, we'll see how it goes.
Jaguars can't stop the pass. Brown has got a great.
They haven't been good.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm with you on Evan Ingram. I think you're going up against the Cincinnati Bengals defense. We definitely want Evan Ingram out there. Wide receiver, I'm going to go Christian Kirk at 8,200. And then that left me, again, in a situation where I didn't love my options. But I'm just going to take the Bengals at 3,200, even though I think this is going to be a good day for the Jags. Lou Anarumo, still top 5 defensive play caller. All it takes is one pick six. And, hey, Trevor Lawrence has been known to have, these awesome 95% of the time. I think people –
ETN's known for fumbling.
Again, weird things have happened to the Jags at times this season. I think they'll ultimately win this game. But, hey, one weird thing turns into a touchdown, and we're happy with whatever happens from there. So, yeah, ETN is the captain. Give me both Bengals wide receivers, Kirk, Ingram, and the Cincinnati Bengals defense.
Yeah, the only guy, like I said, that I think under that price range, I feel pretty good about scoring around the points the Bengals do is Irwin at 1,800. But in many cases, I feel like when you get to that range, I mean, you really should. You should try to just take
get the kicker, get the defense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
At least you know they're going to have a chance to score points, to where some of these receivers and running backs, they may not even get.
They might be on the field for 7 plays. So
exactly. Well, that was fun. The Daily Fix is back.
I love it. The music makes I was so excited hearing the music on my headphones again.
Right?
I've missed it. I've missed it a lot. So Washington 10-0 lead. That's good for all my bets.
Who called it?
Let's go.
Actually, I don't know if I told you, but yeah, when I went on the ESPN radio gig Wednesday, I was the only one picking Washington because Bo Nix is overrated.
Well, he's currently 1 of 5 for 8 yards. So.
Like I said, overrated.
He's been awesome, and I just can't fully buy into it. You probably even more so because you saw him up close and personal.
Look at his stats, Joe, in I believe it's 6 or 7 games versus Georgia Auburn. 0 passing touchdowns.
He is the Dallas Cowboys and Miami Dolphins of college football.
And people are saying top 10 pick. Get the fudge out of here.
Who's saying that? Oh my God.
There's people saying it. Talk to Allen.
Michael Penix. If you want to talk me into him, I'm listening.
I do like Penix.
No, thank you.
All right. Follow me and Joe. Twitter handles right there. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to check out the Fantasy and Frames Sunday morning show. It's the best for realsies. And obviously, follow Fantasy and Frames on all social media platforms, including TikTok, Instagram, you name it. We got it. We still got MySpace. I don't know. But for Keith Fleming,
nobody does.
We're 1 million years old. Joe the Brain Mats. Let's hit that music one more time and we're out of here.